with LMS, our Latino Medical Student Association, as well as AMWA, which is our women's student group. We have also SAMHSA, which is our South Asian students, with PAMSA, which is Asian Pacific American. We have Gertrude Stein, which is for like our LGBTQ plus students, and just many other ones. We have like a Muslim Students Association, Christian students, et cetera. So I kind of am the advisor for those different groups. And then we certainly have like another, I think almost 200 like student groups. It's probably pretty similar to Homewood. Okay, so just in looking at the profile from last year, we get about 5,600 applications through AMCAS. AMCAS is primarily the like common application service for applying to medical school. And everyone who is sends an application, they're also sent a secondary application. So Hopkins has like its own personal questions that they'd like to ask you to get to know you a little bit better. And we had about 4,200 of those applications returned. We do have some veteran screeners that have been actually screening the applications for many years. And so they're really equipped, I think, in picking out students that have, you know, the unique attributes that we're looking for in a successful medical student. And so they do select from them an interview between like 550 and 600 candidates for the MD only degree. And then there's a separate committee that's for the MD PhD committee. We accept about 250 to 280 students. Our class size is always 120. So typically they have like a formula that they use to kind of figure out just like roughly how many people they think will accept like the first, the first acceptances and matriculation deadline, which is like May 1st. And then if they don't fill the 120, they'll also accept people off of the wait list. So that's how they get up to that number that's there as well. So if you do an interview at Hopkins, you have roughly like a, 45% chance of being admitted to the school. And the trend that we've had most recently is to have more women than men in our school. This past year, we also enrolled about 18% underrepresented in medicine students. I think you guys might use like URM, but we usually use UIM. I don't want to change. Just a second. I feel like my mouse is like missing or something. I can't see it. So what's the process? So the process is that as an applicant that's applying, you'll have access to the AMCAS online web portal starting around May 1st. And you can begin to submit the online application starting as early as May 28th, but the medical school programs actually don't receive access to your applications until July 10th. So I think it's useful to kind of help have like that frame of mind, frame of reference. I think oftentimes people begin to panic if they're like, oh, I didn't do it on May 1st, it's too late for me, just to kind of know that the medical school doesn't really get the applications until July 10th, and they begin reviewing them right away. That's July 10th also is not the deadline for submitting applications. So there's no truth in like, you have to send it in on July 10th or you won't be considered. They actually conduct interviews for much longer than that. So what are some of the criteria that we're looking for in a successful candidate? We certainly are looking for students that have performed well in their particularly in their science classes. So in your AMCAS application, there'll be an area where it refers to BCPM, which is biology, chemistry, physics, and mathematics. And so there's like a separate GPA that's calculated for that. So oftentimes people will say, oh, my GPA was a 3.6 or something like that. But then their science and mathematics GPA might have been significantly lower than that. So we do have a very science heavy curriculum, and the the professors really move at a fast pace. So that's one of the first things that we look at when we're considering someone. We don't have a cutoff. There's not a certain cutoff like you have to have in order to be accepted to the medical school. We also look for candidates that have had some leadership experiences. You certainly don't have to be, you know, the student body president or something like that, but you could be the president of your club, your organization, or like a volunteer group or something like that. But we do want to have someone who, number one, has the confidence and the courage to and organizational skills that's required to lead a group. It also shows that people have trust in your leadership abilities, which is also something that we're looking for our candidates. On the other side of things, we also are very interested in students that have displayed a commitment to service. Being a physician is a service profession, and so we want to find evidence of your humanistic side and how you interact with people. Your service does not have to be like volunteering in a hospital. It could be, you know, reading to a child or teaching someone to read an hour a week, or, you know, sitting with an elderly person, or working in a food bank. But we just really want to see those humanistic sides. We're also interested in diverse candidates in all forms. So whether it's by gender, race, ethnicity, ability, sexual orientation, any of those things are things that we will also consider as well. It's important that our class, we think, reflect some of the patients that we see. Certainly, since some patients will have a better connection with people with whom they share an identity. And then we're also interested in your ability to work as a team, within a team. We're also looking through your application for some of these competencies. So we want someone who demonstrates integrity, someone who's reliable, has good interpersonal skills, but also has capacity for improvement. I think that it's very important that a physician is a lifelong learner. We don't want someone who thinks that they already know it all. There's nothing else that they need to know. They're coming in here just to, like, you know, do the required things of them so they can just get the MD degree and move on. And people that are interested in cultural competence and cultural humility, I think, is very important, as well as your communication and work style. So what are our requirements? We do require the MCAT for admission, as well as biology with lab, chemistry, organic chemistry, and physics with lab as well. We also have the expectation that our students will have taken either calculus or statistics, as well as biochemistry, and they have to also complete the bachelor's degree prior to matriculation. Sometimes you can apply for the medical school, to the medical school before you've completed all of your requirements. That's frequently something that comes up. For example, some schools may not necessarily have biochemistry as part of, like, you know, a required course. And so you could still apply without biochemistry, but you would need to complete biochemistry before you matriculated. These are just the areas, the 4 areas that are in the new MCAT. We do certainly focus on the sciences, which are like the first and third and fourth items on here, but we particularly pay close attention to the critical analysis and reasoning skills, because we do expect that from our physicians as well. So during the process, we talked about a little bit, you first submit your AMCAS and then you get your secondary. And then from that point, we will select interviewers. All the candidates that come to Hopkins will have 2 interviewers. They'll have one that's a faculty generally. Sometimes some of them are alumni, or some are like me who are faculty and alumni. I shared earlier with Tempest and Kelly that I actually am doing interviews today. So, so I'll be heading off to interview someone right after this. And then the second interviewer will be a 4th-year medical student. So it's really important for us to, certainly as faculty members, to have some say in the candidates who are chosen, but it's also equally important that our medical students do as well. They know what's required of them. They're the ones that have most recently gone through the curriculum and can be a good judge of who's a good fit in terms of their social interactions, their communication style, and how they would be able to interact with peers and with patients. So that's important to us. Um, so your interviewer, when you come in, will have your entire application that's submitted through ERAS and the Common Application. The faculty and the medical student interviewers are given equal weight. So it is important that you have a good connection with both and are respectful, obviously, of both, but not only the faculty member, because you're like, oh, that's the person who's has the say. So that's also important to think about that. In the interview, we do again look for these humanistic qualities, particularly during the interview, how you interact with people. Do you seem to be compassionate? How we think you would interact with other people from diverse backgrounds. And we also do present an interview report to the team. We have like monthly meetings of the committee. We talk about the strengths and weaknesses and things that we observed during the committee, and the student also presents as well. So at the end of it, there is a consideration of the entire application. So your AMCAS, your secondary, and the interview reports from the faculty member and the student. And all of that information is made available to the committee members. We have two committees. We have a Thursday committee and a Friday committee. And the committee members will have the opportunity to review your application prior to the meeting, like the week and weekend prior to the meeting. And then at the meeting, they conduct a vote after each student's presented. At that time, based on the vote, the chair of the committee makes a decision whether to accept the student, place the student on the wait list, or to deny the student. And we talked a little bit about what happens with the wait list. There certainly are opportunities to get in off of the wait list because since we do have a small class of 120, not everyone ends up coming. You know, they do maybe choose another school or they choose to defer, so there still are opportunities there. So I wanted to move into just talking a little bit about the curriculum. So we have two kind of main focuses. Certainly one is teaching you guys about the science of medicine. And so the courses that we have are like the scientific foundations of medicine, which is like what our students are going through right now. It's similar to like biochemistry, like they just had like a macromolecules exam where they learned about like all the different proteins and enzymes, things like that. Probably everything you learn in biochemistry like in 1 week, or no, maybe 2 weeks. But the Genes to Society course, which also kind of is the way that we approach medicine, kind of starting at the smallest point of like a gene, then thinking about how, if that gene works normally, what happens then, or if there's like a problem or a missense mutation, the disorders that might arise from that, and then kind of building out and looking at the organ, the individual, and certainly the individual place within the population. The second part of the curriculum is related to the clinical skills. And so even starting as early as first year, you are divided into 4 colleges, kind of like the Hogwarts model. We don't have a sorting hat, but we have something similar. And you're divided into 4 different colleges, and you, within your college, those 30 students, you'll be split into further smaller groups. And you'll practice interviewing with each other, interviewing with patients and standardized patients, and working on your communication skills and physical diagnosis. Then in the second half of the year, in January, you start doing your longitudinal ambulatory clerkships. So in that program, you start going to your preceptor for like a half a day. And we have you stay with the same preceptor for a year. So you know, kind of first go in, you might not necessarily like know how to do a history, but by working with the same person on a weekly basis, you'll be able to start building up those skills. After the second year, we have another course called Transition to Wards, which is a lot of fun. I love teaching in that course. It's 3 weeks before you start on your rotations, and we go through everything, like how to scrub your hands, how to wear a gown, how to do CPR, how to, you name it, how to round, how to write rounding notes, how to write prescriptions, all these things. So you'll just be ready to start on to the wards. We also, again, like I talked about, is just really want you to have that opportunity to have a exposure to your clinically relevant experiences, just even starting from the very beginning. And we integrate science, as well as clinical work throughout all 4 years. So you'll also have those opportunities as well. We also have some specialized tracks within the medical school. One of them is the primary care leadership track, where students can apply into this program and they can have additional outpatient experience with their choice of preceptor, whether it's internal medicine, geriatrics, pediatrics, or family medicine. And then after that, they have the opportunity to do an advanced clerkship in their 4th year in ambulatory because they've had all this experience. They have a scholarly concentration project. They have workshops where they can work on their skills and talking about working within a learning community. And like I said, they have the sub-internship in primary care at the end. We also have a global health leadership track, which has also been getting more and more popular recently. It's an opportunity for students that are interested in improving health and improving access to care globally can get involved with the global health leadership track. There's also a club that goes along with it. And many of the people that are interested in global health, they are also frequently interested in like the MPH and kind of thinking about health from like the public health standpoint. Yeah, so it helps just prepare students to advocate, like both here and abroad. So it's good. Our students have, any student has the opportunity to work there. Some of the students also have opportunities to travel during their 4 years. So that's also a really exciting opportunity for them. Other degree opportunities, you certainly can apply for the MD PhD, which we talked about, as well as there's an MD MBA program that you can also apply for. As a combined degree. And then many students actually just choose to apply after their 3rd year. They'll do a gap year and apply to some of the other schools. So they can get a master's in public health at Bloomberg or bioethics at the Berman Institute. Some students, recently, I have a student who's applying this year. She just got a master's in biomedical engineering, which I thought was really interesting, and thinking about how she's going to apply that in the future. So lots of opportunities for our students. And so what are some of the strengths? Certainly, I think the faculty, these are some quotes from past interviewed students. The strength of the faculty, the reputation of the school, our history of excellence, as well as the organization that they saw on the interview day and throughout the process. I think the student body, I've already spoken about how great they are, and then as well as the new curriculum and our new school building. So here are just some resources that you could consider. AAMC is a great place to kind of poke around and get more information. You can certainly also look at our Hopkins website, School of Medicine admissions website. And if you have any questions, I really encourage you to email SOM which is the email. You can also find that email address on the Hopkins admissions website, but that email is monitored by Paul White, who's our Assistant Dean of Admissions, and he actually responds to all of them. So he's really committed to the work that he does here. So I certainly encourage you if you do have any questions about that. And then here's just like an aerial view, which probably needs to update it because I feel like we're always building new buildings. So. What questions do people have?
Thank you so much for that presentation, Dr. Lawson. So one question, wait, can you guys hear me? Like, well, Fine. Okay, cool. So one question I had in regards to the curriculum, so it's not like undergrad where you register for your classes in advance, right? Like, are you automatically put in set classes as like a MS1, MS2, and then you choose your electives, or how does registration work?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, so when you come in, there's 120 students, and all of the students are taking the same courses. So you come in, you start learning. The very first course is healthcare disparities. And so it's like what we call one of our time courses. And so the time course is like a translational intercession. It's like usually a 3-day or 4-day course. And so there's one on healthcare disparities, and then they go into anatomy. Anatomy is your first course. So as opposed to when you were in undergrad, where you take like, 1 hour, like 2 or 3 days a week, you just be doing anatomy all day. So you have anatomy all day, you might have some lectures, you might have some small group sessions, and then you might go to the lab, and you do that every single day for like 3 or 4 weeks. And along the way, you'll have like different tests and exams on different parts of the body. And then after anatomy, they probably have like another time course. They might have one like on nutrition and obesity or palliative care or something like that. And then you go into your next course, which is what they're doing right now. They are doing like macromolecules right now. And so you just kind of keep going on that way. And in the second year, the courses, so the first year goes from like the middle of August to the middle of June for like 10 months. And then many students choose to apply for funding through our office, the dean's funding for summer research. And so you can get a stipend and get paired with a mentor to do research during the summer between first and second year. And then in second year, you start back up in the middle of August and you go until March, and then you have that actually till February, and then you have the transition towards course before you start doing your rotations. In second year, it's a little bit different. They go by organ systems. So they start out, we're going to learn everything about renal. So how the kidney works and all these different things. So you're just doing renal every day for 4 weeks, and then you go to pulmonary and you do pulmonary every day for like 4 weeks, and then you do cardiology. So and you go all the way through all the organ systems, infectious disease, reproductive system, and that takes you all the way up until transition towards. So that's a great question. The opportunities when you are on your clinical service, you still have core rotations you have to do. So everyone has to do the basic clerkship. So it's kind of like your core curriculum. You have to do pediatrics, medicine, OBGYN, surgery, psychiatry, neurology, emergency medicine, and intensive care. And you can do it in any order that you want. And then you can choose your electives. So you can choose like dermatology, or you can choose, anesthesiology or rheumatology, like some of the ones that are not one of the basic ones, cardiology, things like that. Great. Any other questions?
I had a question. I was wondering how if or how coronavirus has affected admission or the way that you view applicants during this time?
So, coronavirus has impacted, I think, the admissions process. There's been a slight increase in candidates applying to medical school this year. And that might be related to decreased costs associated with going on interviews, because people don't have to like buy a plane ticket, travel places. So maybe people are applying to maybe a few more schools than maybe they would have in the past. Certainly we're doing our interviewing virtually. So that's been a change, but it hasn't really impacted how we're going to select students. We do know that many schools did have pass fail. So we've made the semester, like the initial semester that was being affected by COVID. So we have made some adjustments to our requirements. Like, for example, like if you couldn't take organic chemistry for a grade, because while you were in organic chemistry, everything got shut down. And so your school changed it to pass. In the past, you wouldn't be allowed to take organic chemistry for pass fail, but certainly because of COVID, we're not saying you need to like drop an organic chemistry and wait until you can get it graded. We're making exceptions for that. Yeah.
Thank you. And then I was wondering about how you're viewing, or if you're going to view select the applicants the same in terms of their extracurriculars because of COVID, or are you looking at it what they did before coronavirus?
Yeah, so we're looking at what people have done before coronavirus and their research. I think that, this is a unforeseen time, like no one really knows like what to expect, but like even our own medical students, their experiences have been dampened. They haven't been able to do as much like hands-on clinical research or bench research because of the shutdown. So you do kind of have to make some exceptions for that. But we also are looking for people who, you know, have been involved in their campus community. I'm sure that there's going to be a question that you'll be asked somewhere along the way, like, what did you do during the pandemic? Because I think that there were certainly opportunities. Some of our students, for example, they got very involved with making face shields, although they were like part of the shutdown, like they were very involved with that, or getting involved with like distributing supplies. Like they created this like 9-van transportation system, and the students were like driving to other states and getting PPE and bringing it back, and things like that. So I think that there are other ways that people can be involved. Like they might not be able to do the regular like face-to-face interactions like at a nursing home or something because it was shut down, but there were still other ways to get involved during the pandemic.
I have a question about the Global Health Leadership Program. And
Yes.
so I guess first question is it like a selective application, or can you just choose to do the track if you want to? And then the second question is what does the field experience look like?
So, so it is a selective process. So usually you have to fill out a small application and write, it's usually like a statement of interest or like a personal statement about why you're interested in doing it. And then they usually will plan a trip for people that are interested. And so to go and like work in a clinic or a hospital overseas and provide some care, or maybe work on a project here in Baltimore that might be, you know, one of the students was working on a training program for midwives to teach them about hypertension during pregnancy. And so designing the curriculum here in Baltimore, and then, you know, they might be able to travel during spring break or during the summertime when they have their elective time to travel there and spend 2 weeks or 4 weeks overseas, like implementing the curriculum, like training the midwives that are going to be teaching the curriculum, or teaching people like in towns and villages how to take blood pressures or something like that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, my name is Zainab, and I have a question, not necessarily in regards to the admissions or anything, but more so the curriculum. So because Hopkins is, you know, located pretty much like in the city of Baltimore, is there any place within the curriculum where there's a focus on like the history of Hopkins and its relation to Baltimore, how it's affected the community and things like that?
Mm-hmm. So that's covered in our first course. So we want to have all of our students like on the same page when they arrive. So during our healthcare disparities course, we take a look at Hopkins history and the community and the interactions with the community, as well as have some of our community partners come and present and talk to our first year medical students. And we talk about that also within the context of like healthcare disparities, not only for people that are like African-American, but like healthcare disparities in different groups, and how like some of the examples are, you know, different outcomes for patients that have obesity, or different outcomes for adolescents that might be LGBTQ, or people with HIV, for example, like that. Just looking at different things within that time course. But that's one of the first courses that they do.
Thank you.
Hi, Dr. Lawson. Thank you very much for the amazing presentation. I actually have a question about international students. So is there a quota to the number of international students that Hopkins Medicine takes in?
No, we don't have any quotas for any of our admitted students. We do have like a limited amount of financial aid. That's for the all admitted students, but like we have one set of funds for international students and one set of funds for students that are like permanent residents or US citizens. So students can certainly be admitted there's no quota to that, but it might have an impact on like how much like financial aid or like scholarship dollars that are available.
Thank you.
I also have another question. So how do you balance your life as both a faculty member and a general practitioner?
So, I mean, much of what we do is we teach like while we're doing our jobs. So I have a student right now that's working with me in the office. And so, you know, he and I work together. We talk about how to take the history, how to perform different parts of the exam. We go through the process for making, you know, the medical decision, like when we're going to refer someone or when someone needs surgery, things like that. I also do a lot of teaching like in the operating room with students and residents, and as well as in labor and delivery, like teaching people how to do a C-section or teaching them how to do a delivery. And so I think that piece is a little bit easier to balance, but then you have to also throw in, if you're interested in doing research, some people have labs and things like that. I also give lectures to students and residents as part of my job. And so I think that there's a way for you, if you're interested, to kind of balance all of those different facets of like working in academic medicine. I thought you were going to ask me like, how do I balance my family? Because I was like, I don't know my kids coming in or anything like that. So. Okay. Well, great. It was great being with you guys today. I want to thank you guys again for inviting me. And you know, feel free to reach out if you guys have questions. Anyone else? All right. Sounds good.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lawson, for presenting. We are super appreciative. It's always, you know, navigating the medical school process is super difficult. So we're always super appreciative when people take time out of their busy schedules to come and present to us. So thank you so much.
Great. It was so nice meeting you guys. Good luck.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.